Number 10. The Virtual Boy. The Virtual Boy was a failed experiment released in 1995. It was the last product designed by Gunpei Yokoi, who was a well-known game designer at Nintendo. The idea was to put your eyes in its slots, as you can see in the picture. Once you put your eyes in it, it would stimulate 3D images. People who tested the product said that they got eye strains in a matter of minutes. It also had a very short battery life. The Virtual Boy had a very short lifespan, and a very small amount of games were ever produced for it. Number 9. The Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance was a portable console released in 2001. Unlike the Virtual Boy, the Game Boy Advance had decent sales, so Nintendo milked out different models of it. But there was one big problem with the console. It lacked quality games. There was some good games on it, but most of it were shovelware. And why is the console considered 32-bit? It makes no sense! The PlayStation was also 32-bit, and that console was way more powerful. Also, the buttons were poorly laid out. They did fix the buttons though, with the second model. Number 8. The Super Nintendo. I honestly kind of like this console, but I have to say it is flawed. First of all, in North America it was released in 1991. By that time, the Sega Genesis was already released 2 years prior, so 16-bit gaming was already a thing. So there was no point on buying the Super Nintendo. Nintendo also made it worse for all the third-party companies by censoring everything. For example, on the Super Nintendo version of Mortal Kombat, there's no blood. The Genesis port did have blood. Number 7. The Nintendo DS. This was another portable console. As you can see, it has 2 screens. The bottom one is a touchscreen, but it almost doesn't work, so you had to use a pen. It's just horrible design no matter how you look at it. It was just a gimmick. And just like the Game Boy Advance, most of the games on it were shovelware, so it was almost impossible to find a good game. Number 6. The Game Boy. I know a lot of people who like this console. If you like it, fine, I won't judge you. But I personally can't stand it. There's one big issue I have with it, and that is the screen. You can barely see anything. That's really all I have to say. Number 5. The Wii U. I really have to ask, what were they thinking with this one? First of all, there is a touchscreen on the controller. It may seem kinda cool at first, but think about it. If you're gonna use the touchscreen, you're going to have to look down a lot on your controller and then change back to your TV, which means that you're gonna have to change back between the screens over and over and over again. Who in their right mind would want to play a game like that? Also, this console was released in 2012, but it's barely any stronger than the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. Those consoles came out in 2005 and 2006. And a year after the Wii U was launched, the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One was released. Even though those consoles was also outdated, they were at least a step forward from the 7th generation of consoles. Number 4. The Nintendo 64. First of all, let's start with the cartridges. This console was released in 1996, and by that time, cartridges were outdated. Nintendo 64 cartridges could only hold up 64 megabytes max. The PlayStation was released 2 years before the Nintendo 64, and it used CDs, and those could hold up to 750 megabytes. So it was a pain for developers to develop for the Nintendo 64. Another problem was the controller. I don't have to say much, just look at it. Why does the middle have to look like a genital? Number 3. The Nintendo 3DS. What a waste of potential. It's just an updated version of the original DS. They could have fixed the touchscreen. But no, let's just put in a 3D monitor and a circle pad while we're at it. Nothing new and nothing worthwhile, besides better graphics. Number 2. The GameCube. Nintendo really lost their shit with this one. Instead of using DVDs like the PlayStation 2 and Xbox, They instead decided to use mini DVDs. These types of mini DVDs couldn't store as much data as normal DVDs. So some games, like Resident Evil 4, had to come with 2 discs. The controller was pretty comparable, but it only had 12 buttons, unlike the PlayStation 2 and Xbox controllers, which had 16 buttons, and the right analog stick sucked. Due to these problems, many third-party developers ignored the GameCube. For example, there was never a GTA game on this system. It did have some good first-party games, like Metroid Prime. I loved that game, but it wasn't enough to save the system. Number 1. The Wii. This thing is just a waste of time. Let's start with the controller. It's a stick that you move, and sometimes maybe you have to click on a button, and that's really it. It's just a fucking gimmick. Sure, some games does work with the controller, like Epic Mickey. But even if it works with some games, why would it ever matter when there's so much shovelware? It's painfully hard to find a good game on the system when there's so much crap on it. Also, this console is extremely underpowered. Just like the Wii U, it's not as powerful as the competitors. But the Wii is not even as strong as the original Xbox. And the original Xbox was a generation before the Wii. In the end, the Wii was a horrible console. It wasn't the worst console of all time, but I think it is the worst Nintendo console. Thanks for watching.